While many of the creation stories of ancient Egypt focus on a god creating the world and everything in it, did you also know that there is a creator goddess? I am Amy Offset Roan here at the Goddess Inside, and to continue my Creation Stories of Ancient Egypt series, today we're going to be focusing on this creator goddess, and her name is Neith. Neith is truly one of the most ancient goddesses of Egypt. She was mentioned in the pyramid texts, which go all the way back to the 5th dynasty. She was a very important goddess even before then, and we see this in the 1st dynasty names of some queens. We have Neith Hotep and we have Mer-Neith. And one of the things that I think these queens probably appreciated about Neith was her element as a warrior goddess. She was very protective, and one of her symbols was that of a shield with 2 crossed arrows. So I'm sure that these queens were calling upon the power of Neith in their names for her protection and to embody that element of protection as they ruled over the land of ancient Egypt. The portion of Egypt that is most sacred to the goddess Neith is that of Lower Egypt. So we will see oftentimes Neith portrayed as a human-headed woman, and she's wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt on her head. So this area of the Delta, this area known as Sais, these were very important areas where temples to her were built and where she was very prominent in the religious worship. Another area that was prominent for the goddess Neith was down in the temple of Esna. And this is where when we talked in an earlier video about the god Khnum and how he's connected to her here through Esna. This is also a place where we find hymns to Neith within this temple. Now, speaking of Khnum being paired with Neith, she generally is not paired with a god and partnered with one in the same way that we see Isis and Osiris. She pretty much was a individual goddess, very much independent of male forces to help her to create. And so the way that Neith created the world was through weaving a net. And one of her symbols that we'll see often also above her head is that of a shuttlecock. So it's this kind of elongated oval shape with, they look like antennas maybe on either end. And this is something that is used in a loom with the thread, and you push it back and forth, and it takes the fabric out. I'm not explaining this very well, but it takes the thread back and forth. It creates the fabric for what it is you're weaving. And so in the stories of creation, Neith took this shuttlecock and the thread, and she wove for herself a net. Now, also within the hymns at Esna about Neith, it describes her as the primordial mound of creation itself, and it describes her as the primordial ocean from which all of life sprang, which was the noon. So she wove this net, and since she was the noon itself, the ocean of creation, she dipped this net down inside of herself and pulled out from within all of life. Fish, mountains, trees, all the animals, even the stars she pulled out of herself and placed them in the sky. So she was a very multifaceted goddess from ancient times, pre-dynastic times, 1st dynasty, pyramid text period, all throughout the coffin texts and the Book of the Dead, and then here at the Temple of Esna in the Ptolemaic time period. So she really spanned the entire history of ancient Egypt. So we see her, as I said, as a woman-headed or human-headed woman. And then we also can see her with a crocodile head. And remember, she's the mother of the crocodile god Sobek. And also sometimes we will see her in her serpent form. So these are some different ways that she can be portrayed in the ancient Egyptian art. One last thing I want to tell you about Neith is that the temples sometimes were called the house of the bee. So when we see the symbol of the bee in hieroglyphs, it's a representation of Egypt, a portion of Egypt, the land of, I'm going to say, don't quote me on this, but I do believe that it is referencing the land of Lower Egypt, where we see sometimes the sedge and the bee being referenced. And so when you see Neith, one of the other things that she's associated with is the bee and its iconography as a representation of the land of Egypt. So that was a lot of information to pack into this little video, and I hope that you enjoyed learning about a creator goddess rather than a creator god today. If you would like to learn more about ancient Egypt, the gods and goddesses, then please be sure to check out my Patreon. It's the Goddess Inside's Egyptian Mystery School, in which you now have an archive of over 2 years of material about various gods and goddesses, temples, rituals, ancient Egyptian literature, and I'm using all of this to write my book. So if you come and join me, you support me as a member of my Egyptian Mystery School, you will not only get access to all of the archives, but you will also be a part of the book writing process with me, which I would so appreciate. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you continue to learn about ancient Egypt and check out the Mystery School, check out my tours to Egypt, and come and see all of these beautiful temples with me and the pictures of the goddesses and gods on the walls. And until next time, may you enjoy everything about today.